Action. Hi guys, welcome back to The Clean Dirt, the official podcast of Symto, the health and wellness social network that pays you for your attention and your data. Here we are at episode 2. If you guys haven't seen the first episode, I guess there aren't going to be any spoilers, but we do recommend that you check that out on our YouTube channel as Symto, Symto. We're out here on the beautiful Sonoma coast, struggling with the elements of sunshine and a light breeze. In the CEO's backyard, I've got Martin Lees back here, our founder and our CEO. How's it going, Martin?
It's going very well, mate. How are you?
Awesome. I'm doing great. So yeah, it's good to be back talking about Symto again. It's been a minute since our last podcast.
Right.
Kind of what we want to go over in this one is the first podcast. If you haven't seen it, we kind of gave a real overview of Symto and kind of the why we're doing it. We talked about the economic problems, the social problems, some of the environmental problems even that we see Symto tackling, and how those kind of all come together in this regenerative model that we've designed with the DRIP, or the Decentralized Regenerative Industry Platform. So in this episode, I want to dive a little bit deeper into the specifics, and we're going to talk about, we're going to move from the why kind of to the what, and talk about exactly what Symto is, what it's going to look like, what it does for our users, what it's going to do for our participating businesses, and what it's going to do just kind of for the economy, the industry in general, the environment. Okay. And I want to start. I kind of want to go through this through the eyes of a Symtoken. So Symtoken, or symbiosis token, is the digital currency that we've created. That basically is the oil of the whole Symto network, and I think the life cycle of a Symtoken is going to be a good way to go through and illustrate all of these different parts, because that's going to flow through the entire kind of Symto machine. Okay. So if we want to start with that, I mean, all right. We are the health and wellness social network that pays you for your attention. So what are we paying you?
Okay, so we're paying you Symtokens, right? As you just mentioned. It's our bespoke cryptocurrency, like you said. It's built in the same blockchain as the network. How do they make their way to you as the user? Okay, right, through the advertising, the advertisements, right? If I have a business and I want to advertise something to you, I don't think that is necessarily fair. For even though you get to use these platforms, you have to use the social media platforms these days. So to say that's what you're getting, that in return for having your attention abused by constantly throwing these ads at you, I don't really think that is a reciprocal relationship at all.
Of course.
All right. So we use the Symtoken system in order to give recompense for that. So if I want to advertise something to you, I make an ad, same as on Facebook or Instagram, but I have to charge it up, load it up with Symtokens that I've purchased from the Symto network. All right. So where does the Symto come from? Right. Well, when we flip this thing on, and our first users are using it, and our first advertisers want to advertise to those users, well, they'll have to purchase the Symtokens with dollars, right? And at the point that those Symtokens are purchased, that's when they come into existence, right? It's a different system than if you're familiar with the mainstream cryptocurrencies and mining and the proof of work and so on. It's a different system to that. That if you did see the last podcast, or we speak about it a lot. The problem with the current system is that the cost of the system is one of the main products, right? That's a fundamentally corrupt system to me. I think that the way that the mainstream cryptocurrencies are structured they've repeated that mistake. You know, the motivation it still seems to be like, how can we now get rich on this from the operation of this thing?
Right.
You know, rather than how can this thing operate more effectively and efficiently for society. You know, I think that seems to be the mistake that we're making again. So I don't know if we're going too far around the houses here, but I'll try and get back to it. So I create an ad, I charge it up with these Symtokens. The ad is programmed to negotiate for itself in the network. Okay, so it comes across users that are online. You know, that's the first stipulation. You know, it's going to be a live account, and it negotiates. It says, does this user allow ads from me, from my business, from the sector of the industry, or from me, you know, my company personally, or whatever, or from this particular kind of product? Maybe somebody's trying to you know, avoid a dairy temptation or whatever. So
yeah,
they block those kind of ads, whatever. If it passes those tests, you know, like, is this person in my the ad's demographic? Is this who I want to show my ad to? If it passes those tests, then it asks the question: am I the highest bidding ad trying to show this this particular person an ad right now? If yes, pay that bid and show the ad. Okay.
So the user has that. That's kind of a one of our key points is that the user has that really granular control.
Yes.
About of what kind of ads that they want to see.
Right.
It's not just, you know, an automatic algorithm that feeds them into this, you know, kind of attention sucking vortex of you know, all these things that you don't want or need or whatever.
Yes.
So the user has that really granular control over what they see advertised based on their health and wellness interests that they can specify.
Exactly.
Very cool. So you got your ad charged up with Symtokens. You show the ad to the user if they meet these you know, the kind of demographic requirements, which they can dictate. And then the Symtokens are dispersed to the user upon the impression of that ad. Correct. Basically.
Yes.
So what does that look like from the user side when you're on the network? You know, how are you using it? What kind of functionality does it give you? I mean, what brings you there to accumulate those Symtokens?
Right. So the user's experience on the network, what do they use it for? Right on. So when we were talking about the problems, the why in the last podcast again, we were talking about the social dilemma part of it. What influence are these apps having on our lives? Right. For all evidence seems to be that the influence is negative. Okay. So if we're going to put another system in play here, like even if you know, we solve the advertising problem, if we're not solving the rest of the problem, we're just going to compound it, because now you're just incentivizing people to use a toxic product. Right. So we can use this incentive model to incentivize better behavior. You know, I don't like using words like that, but let's say a more beneficial behavior, right? But how do you define that? How do you define a beneficial behavior?
Yeah.
Okay. But so you got to get down to the fundamentals of what behavior is, right? And whatever it is that you are doing, that is what you are placing your conscious attention on, right? That I think is a fundamental understanding that we need to come to, is the value of attention, right? You can bet your backside that the tech giants and the media giants, they know what the value of attention is, right? That's what the whole industry runs on, right? That's what advertising and so on. But people need to understand what the value of their attention is to them, like what it means for them, where they're put. You know, you guys hear me say a lot that attention is the fundamental human currency, right? Like, how are you investing yours? You know, I'm a swine for it. You know, I'm the worst. I have an attention deficit disorder. You know, I find it very, very difficult to put my attention where it needs to be. Right? So what we found with these apps is that they are very effective for even somebody like me. Like it will take my attention from me, right? And that's not going to change.
Yeah, I mean, they have the smartest people in the world,
Right.
you know, other than us, that's their entire job is to figure out how to extract more of your attention.
Exactly.
And, you know, they do it to the tune of billions of dollars.
Exactly.
So we know what's going on there.
Right. And we know that it works. And this posting and scrolling system seems to work. All right. So how do we siphon off that attention away from there? Like, how can we incentivize that? Well, we have the financial incentive to begin with, all right? But what else, right? People are going to need to see that this thing is impactful in their life quickly. Otherwise, they're just going to give up with it, right? So we've designed this posting and scrolling system to manage your health, as a personal health management system that just works in the same way posting and scrolling, right? It's the same thing that people are doing. People taking posts about the things that they eat, their workouts. These things are already happening, all right? The workout apps and so on, they don't seem to be attracting new people, right? The people that already work out seem to be getting a lot of value from recording their data and so on. That's all great, but we're not incentivizing people to start to pay more attention to their health, all right? So that's what we're designing our network to do.
Yeah.
Both in the functionality and with the financial incentive.
Yeah, I've definitely, I mean, I've been into, you know, MyFitnessPal and a few other kind of health apps. And yeah, if you're already working out and you want something to help you manage that, I mean, that's great. But it didn't, it didn't really incentivize me very much to pay more attention to my health. Right. You know, but if you can, I think if you can gamify that, I mean, basically what you're saying is we can take those social media habits that we already have, and we can take those tactics and use them to focus people's attention towards something that is more explicitly beneficial, possibly to their health, or to incentivize them to pay attention to something that's a lot healthier.
So the game that you don't want to get into when you start putting systems like this in place is telling people what is healthy. You know, trying to sort of centrally plan health for people.
Right.
But what you can provide is essentially a public utility on which to manage your health. You know, when I say manage, what I'm talking about is it's a place to graphically represent the meaning being processed, the value and meaning of nutrition, self-care, medicine being processed through your body, right? It's a very difficult thing to conceptualize, you know, just in your mind, you know.
Right.
So it's all too easy to just live by your temptations, just live by your drives and so on. But if you can represent it to yourself, then it's easier to take control of, right? So you make posts about your health along 5 lines. Okay, so if you imagine a posting window, it's got 5 tabs across the top. The first one being symptoms, right? What are symptoms? Well, it's how you feel. You know, that's all. That's what we're asking you. You know, the other, I can't remember which one's which, but the other apps ask you what's happening, or what are you up to? I can't remember what it is now. But right, we're asking you, how do you feel? Yeah. Like, that's fundamentally what we want to know.
Guys, how do you feel? Let us know in the comments. We didn't forget about you.
Exactly. The next one, record your diet. Like, what are you putting into your body? Your activity. What are you doing with your body? Your treatments. What self-care you're doing, and your sleep. Right? How are you sleeping? There's various ways that you can record that now too. Now, this is the data of your health, right? Now, I realize I'm saying this in an atmosphere right now where people are like, why, after everything that has happened with tech companies, like, why would I be volunteering this data to you now, right? And I fully agree. You know, we have got such an uphill battle to regain the public trust that's been lost by tech. But it is so essential that we do, for the very reason that they're going to continue doing what they're doing. Right. If we're unsuccessful in doing what we're doing. Right.
Because somebody's going to have access to that data.
That's it.
I mean, I was watching a podcast recently. I forget what I was watching. But it was some app designer who was saying basically we're moving from an oil-based economy to a data-based economy. that data is like is the new oil, basically.
Yeah.
And someone or something is going after that data. Everybody's going to be going after that data.
No, yeah, this is exactly right.
Right. So the question is, who do we want to be in control of that?
Right. So I think it's a good point to start talking about, how are we different, in that respect. So in the word DRIP, right, we spoke about before, decentralized regenerative industry platform, right? The decentralized is very important. Right now, the standard model for an app, for a website, is to have that data stored on big servers, like whether it belongs to the app, that particular app themselves, or whether they rent server space from somewhere else. It belongs, in somebody's server. A decentralized app is different in that it is shattered into an infinite number of pieces. Think of it more along the lines of water that can be frozen into its crystalline form of data only by its user.
Right.
So imagine if an ounce of water in the ocean that is your particular piece, bit of water, that when you stick your finger in the ocean, well, that crystallizes, and now you can see that water. You know what I mean? It's along those lines, rather than it being boxes on a shelf that someone could come along and, that's what's in that box.
Right.
The fundamental relationship between our platform and the user is different in that we are 100% absolutely dedicated to your data belonging to you, right?
Yeah. You mentioned earlier. You said it's a public utility, and that's an interesting point, because that's a huge debate now. Is these huge social networks, are they private companies that can do whatever they want with your data, ban whoever they want, control whatever information they want, or are they public utilities that need to kind of play by everybody's rules? And I think decentralization is a huge step toward just being a public utility by default, because your data really isn't in the custody of one organization, or one person in one server.
No, yeah, exactly. I think there have been attempts to do stuff like this, like Bitcoin is an attempt. I forget the guy's name, but the legendary founder of Bitcoin.
The guy, Satoshi Nakamoto.
There you go, right? And people don't know who he is, or they've their suspicion who he might be, all that kind of stuff. But he released this thing in the world, and now it's a public utility. Yeah. And as much as I don't think it's working the way that we need these new methods of exchange to work, I love it. You know what I mean? Like that. Yeah. That's what and that's what I'm going to do. Like that's what I'm fighting to do, is to have this thing exist as a public utility that cannot be manipulated by anybody else. Yeah. Right? And the way that we're structuring it, that we'll probably get to in other podcasts, with the stable coin and so on, which I don't know if you're planning on getting to that today, and the stable coin and the collateral for the stable coin.
I think we can get to that kind of at the end of the Symtoken lifestyle, or life cycle.
Yeah.
The Symtoken lifestyle. It's a lifestyle, guys.
Yeah.
We're gonna have T-shirts sooner or later.
All right.
So, it will be a lifestyle.
We have hats.
Yeah.
All right. What are we up to?
So it's a public utility. It's decentralized. Well, let's go back to kind of the Symtoken life cycle. Okay. So you got users, paid for their attention. Yep. So you have that kind of gamification element, which is a really cool way to incentivize people to start paying attention to their health if they're not already, which I think is a big edge over other health apps. Yes. And so you've got a user using social media in very familiar ways,
creating content. So here's something we should talk about. So every user is a content creator, right? But there will be obviously professional content creators on there as well, as there are now. Like Instagram is rife with what are they called? Like personal trainers and so on, coaches. That right now are using these tools to do great things, like to scale beyond what, like there was like Linda Lusardi when I was a kid who had fitness videos or whatever, but that was all the scale. Or if you happen to get on a morning news show, that was as much scale as a personal trainer could imagine. Right. But now that's all changed, and they're using Instagram to good effect and so on. But what we can provide content creators like that, it's essentially what they are, good content with real substance to it. But we can give them an environment that's data driven, both for them and their clients and so on, to see what's really going on, what they're putting into their body and stuff like that, and people can follow along their lifestyle. There you go. Lifestyle.
Here's where the lifestyle comes in.
We can follow on their life cycle.
Yeah. But what's the difference? It's all the same thing. Right. Spoiler alert: you are the universe. And
that's another podcast for sure.
That is definitely another podcast for sure. We'll do that one. So you got the you got the familiar social media functionality. You're earning tokens. So once say I racked up 500 Symtokens, what do I do with those?
Right.
Where do we go from here?
Yeah, so you can spend them at businesses that use Symto, right? The other side of Symto is the cryptocurrency, right? The cryptocurrency operates as a payment system, right? So businesses that are on Symto can use Symto to process payment for their goods and services. Right, so the 500 Symtokens that you've accrued, you can spend at any place that uses that. What's the word I'm looking for? POS system.
Yeah,
using
that payment system. Yeah. Cool. So I can take my Symtokens, and I could take them to my supplement store, and I could buy my multivitamins.
Exactly.
Or I could pay my yoga instructor.
Yep.
Or I could potentially pay my gym membership.
Exactly. Eventually grocery store.
Right.
We want to get on board with local grocery stores. What I want to do is improve access to things like organic produce and so on, especially from local vendors. You'll notice a lot of the businesses that you were just mentioning are small businesses, right? I think one of the most horrifying things that I've observed in the past year, but and beyond, but throughout this whole COVID thing, is the consolidation of small businesses into large corporate entities.
The
gulf between the employer, those who are able to employ, and the employable is growing massively. So another thing that I think we do is provide you got to look at the business world as like pressures, right? Every business has certain pressures applied to it. Okay, so if you can relieve a little pressure from one part for small businesses, well, then they become more competitive. You know what I mean? So by offering our merchant services, that was the word I was looking for.
Merchant
by
services.
offering our merchant services subscription free, for depending on like revenue or number of employees or something like that. The sliding scale subscription fee, we can make things more competitive. By incentivizing people to use these businesses, because we're paying them for their attention in a currency that they can spend there, we're supporting those small businesses again. So that's another element.
That's one of those awesome innovations that I think blockchain and decentralized networks make possible. Is you have those really low friction marketplaces that can connect buyers and sellers,
right?
Even at a very local level. So you don't have to go, that allow people to use their skills to generate value for themselves at a very small, very granular level.
Exactly.
So you don't have to go to the Amazons and the Walmarts of the world. So
and this is
great equalizer. It's a great economic equalizer.
If not everybody sees these things as the big problems, that I do, whatever. But if you do, your only method of resistance is to vote with every dollar you spend. And I still buy things from Amazon. I still, I say to people, do what you can afford to do.
Right.
You know what I mean? You've got to afford to live. And if you're starting a business, you've got to afford to compete. You got to be able to afford to compete. If you're just going to hobble yourself out of, if you're going to be unrealistic about the environment in which you're competing, and hobble yourself to the point that you can't compete, then what's the point? You know, at least to begin with. Once you can afford it, then you change things. You improve as you go. Now, don't get me wrong. There are definitely decisions that I make still based on this ethos, because there are things that I can afford to do. You know, I support local businesses where I can, and things like that. But yeah, like, you do what you can afford to do. Like, don't feel pressured to hobble yourself in this environment to the point of being ineffectual.
So we've got we've kind of followed the Symtoken so far, from Symto to the advertiser to the user to the business, whether it's your grocery store or your local yoga instructor or whoever. So they're basically, if they're using the Symto POS, they're swiping their card. That generates an automatic purchase of Symtokens that gets transferred to the business. Exactly. In combination with their Symtokens. Maybe that's a little bit too detailed.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, we need to talk about the fees, right?
Right. Yeah.
So we just mentioned that subscription free is the goal. Okay. So then, how do we operate? So we still charge transaction fees. Now, this counts for if a business is buying Symtokens to advertise, right? To charge up an ad or whatever, or if Symtokens are being used for the merchant services system, for the payment system. All right, because like you just said, if a customer buys something at a business that uses Symto, to them it's just a normal credit card transaction. They don't notice anything different, right? But in the system, it's processed as an automatic purchase of Symtokens that are transferred directly to the business. And there's fees associated with that. Okay, right? We've modeled on a 2% fee, right? There are some merchant services that come in under 2% these days, but they have subscription attached, right? 2% seems like a good number to work off. Plus, it makes the math real easy for me, and I'm all about that. Half of that fee goes to the operating costs of the Symto organization, right? Decentralized automated organization, right? The platform is the organization. We can talk about that later too.
The DAO.
The DAO, exactly.
Yeah.
That requires money to operate. So half that fee goes to that, to operate in that. The other half goes into the collateral of the Symtoken, of Symtokens, all right? So it's added, not only the money that's been paid for the Symtoken, but also half of the fee as well, right? So that every Symtoken that exists raises in value to an equal portion of that fee. Okay, so as you can see from that, you know, that ongoing action, the value of Symtoken appreciates continuously, right? So
the deflationary asset.
So that makes it attractive should somebody want to buy Symtokens to leave value in it, right? As an investment and hold it, okay? Pretty steady investment overall. With any luck, you know, if that will mean that we will accrue a sizable amount of collateral, right? Well, where are we going to put that? We want to partner with credit unions, right? Credit unions are undergoing the same onslaught of consolidation as small businesses, right? Credit unions, to my mind, right, to my understanding, were created to compete with the central banking system, right? To give people a local alternative to this system, right? That system doesn't like competition, right? So it is the same actors have fucking turned their, am I swearing this thing?
Yeah.
The same actors have turned their attention to the credit unions and have started doing the same thing and just consolidating them into these large financial establishment institutions. There are some surviving though, right? Still fighting this good fight. And I want to partner with those credit unions to host our collateral, right? we'll talk to them about the incentives to that. But certainly a portion of the fees is included in that. But I think it would give their customers a lot of great options in terms of new products, lending products, and which we can get into.
Totally.
Payment products. But other things. But also in terms of our network, putting local produce, local food producers in touch with local restaurants and things like that. Like through those connections can be made through something like a local credit union.
How does this work for the businesses that are getting paid in Symtokens? Where do they take those Symtokens?
Okay, right. So they have. A business ends up with a wallet full of Symtokens, right? They can cash those out at any time, right? It's when they cash them out that they pay the fees. Okay, about 2% fees.
Right.
It's not paid when the person. It's not paid when the person makes the purchase.
So when the person makes the purchase, we're not charging them fees just for using their Symtokens.
Correct.
So that's kind of low.
Or using their credit card.
Or using their credit card, right?
Yeah.
Lowers the barrier for them.
Right.
But then the business can cash those out.
The business can cash them out at any time.
Yeah.
When they cash them out to dollars, that's when they pay the 2% fee. Okay. If they have suppliers that also accept Symtokens, they can pay in those Symtokens and never pay fees for that. Okay. Incentivizing people to leave their value in the system.
So you've got this. You're building this whole economy essentially within this drip, where you've got value transiting from Symto to the users to the businesses that can then either cash them out if they want to cash them out, or they can potentially pay their suppliers or other other people in that economy with Symtoken. So what I think is really cool about this is what it looks like is that we're building a real ecosystem and a real with real use cases for a cryptocurrency in a way that no other cryptocurrency is quite developed yet, which is really cool. I mean, you kind of got. I'm just kind of going off on a little bit of a tangent here. I mean, you kind of got Bitcoin, which people compare to gold. It's kind of known as digital gold. You got Ethereum, which is now known as digital oil. Bitcoin is kind of this digital store of value. You got Ethereum as this, like I said, digital oil that kind of runs the blockchain that all of these other apps run on. Those are kind of representative of these real world commodities. And then the kind of next level of that would be a currency like the US dollar that people actually use as an everyday medium of exchange. And that's kind of a place that I think is the next place to get to with cryptocurrency, or that we haven't quite done. And that's what I love about Symtoken, is that we have this ecosystem to really foster the growth of a real usable medium of exchange in cryptocurrency form, that I think is kind of the next level for this technology that we're building.
Yep.
So that's my theory.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly what we're doing. And it's recognizing that these things are methods for the measurement of value, for the measurement of meaning. They are tools for the measurement of meaning. Okay, I say a lot again that value is a measurement of meaning. Okay, our mistake, the way that we treat money now, is we stop. We think that that's value. We think that money is the value.
But money's not the value.
No,
money is the representation of the value.
Exactly.
Or
it's just the measurement.
Right. It's the measurement.
It's the inches. Value. It's not the lumber.
Right.
Right.
How much do I value that iPhone? Apparently, I value it probably a little too much. Yeah.
Right.
For what I paid for it. But,
kind of taking us down a bit of a cul-de-sac, but
yeah. Well, that's okay. I mean, we can always, always inject a little bit of philosophy into this too.
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean, that's kind of the that's the ecosystem. That's the life cycle of the Symtoken. I think we covered that really well. So where does that go from there? I mean, once we're amassing this portfolio of collateral from the Symtoken fees, and we do. I think there's one more step to this regenerative ecosystem or this regenerative economy that we're building with the social network. So what's the next step that we go from here?
Right. Yeah. So we end up with this big bank account essentially. What do we do with that money, right? Because even in a credit union, if it's in dollars, it's still vulnerable to the same boom and bust cycle that the manipulations of financialization cause.
And God forbid hyperinflation, which we are hopefully not looking down the barrel of right now, but everybody's kind of worried about.
This is it.
Yeah.
So what do we do with it? Well, we invest it. Okay. But weren't we just saying that, I was just criticizing the system of investments. Well, it's interest that is the problem. It's the fact that the costs are the product that is the issue, okay? So we offer this collateral as interest-free loans to projects that are either engaged in or wish to engage in regenerative practices, okay? Each drip will serve projects for its own context, you know what I mean? So in Symto's context of health, where does health begin? Health begins with nutrition, all right? So if you're going to create, which portion of health, if we're talking about health as from nutrition through self-care to medicine, nutrition is by far the most impactful, both to the individual and to the primary asset being earth.
And probably the most neglected by the powers that be, or the industries that most influence our health.
Right. Exactly. So that's the point at which your regenerative system has to re-enter. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's the loop that has to be made.
Right.
It's like that. Your economy needs to be complete in that circuit. Right. So we offer our collateral as interest-free loans to regenerative food production projects. How does that affect then the value of Symtoken? Right. I think that's a fair question at this point. So those notes, those loans, are held as assets in the Symto portfolio, right? We'll have an independent financial institution audit those assets and publish publicly, a live document, declaration of fidelity that the Symtoken's published value is faithful to the value of the assets. If a loan recipient is delinquent on their payments per the agreement, whatever that is, no need to go into the details or whatever, but whatever payment it is that they have missed and is delinquent beyond agreement, that portion of the value of that project defaults to the portfolio, right? That then belongs to Symtoken and everyone who holds Symtokens, right? So that if that property is sold or a portion of the proceeds of that business, if it is ongoing or whatever, goes to the portfolio. You know what I mean? Yeah. And pays into it. So that's that relationship.
So it's regenerative right to the core.
Right. Exactly. If a project is delinquent more than 50% or whatever, then maybe the Symtoken portfolio might foreclose on those assets, right, on those resources, so that they can be allocated to a more viable project. So there are similarities, right, between what I'm talking about and the current system of investments and so on. But you may notice that the risk and the benefit are all decentralized, right? Everybody benefits if these businesses work, right? Not just I was lucky enough to pick this one. Fucking unlucky for you. Yeah. Like I bought fucking Bitcoin, you bought Dogecoin or whatever. Fuck you, dude. Yeah. It's a very different relationship. Fundamentally between platform and user, between lender and loan.
Yeah.
The goal is for everyone to succeed. If everybody succeeds, everybody rises. And on a loan, if I lend you money, I make, in the current system, I make more money if you fuck up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want you to fail.
Yeah.
You know, to a degree. I
Right.
don't want you to completely fail.
Right.
I just want you to fail just enough so I can bleed you.
Right.
You know
right.
what I mean?
Right.
It's
right.
so
Yeah.
it's just evil to me.
Yeah. So well, I mean, that's, and so then what we have with Symtoken is, you know, like you said, the risk is decentralized. So if you have, you know, if you have businesses failing, you're not going to have, you know, you're not going to have like a central bank failing.
Right. So I mean, so what happens if one of these projects really messes up and there are unrecoverable assets? You know, there's unrecoverable value. Yeah. We can have a price freeze, right? We freeze the price of Symtoken while those fees bring it back to true, you know, back to fidelity. I don't foresee, you know, I mean, you only lend out as much as you can afford to. You know, you have to keep your basis of liquidity. It'll be a long time before, you know, we're even able to do this.
Oh yeah.
But the mistakes, we can plan to absorb the mistakes a year at a time, for sure. You know what I mean? Like I'm very, very much against central planning, right? So I have thought through this thing very, very carefully to ensure to minimize the influence of the system on the outcome of the system, right? One of the ways we do that is like, how do we decide who gets a loan, right? Very similar to like a GoFundMe kind of situation, all right? If you have a project, you make a case for your project, right? And there'll be a conversation around that, right? And then that, once the conversation has been had, or a certain time frame will be given, everybody who holds Symtokens can vote that number of times for this project within a time frame, whether we choose them like quarterly or monthly or whatever it is. Most votes wins. You know, that's the project that gets to exist. That decision is decentralized as far as we can decentralize it, right? Now, the average Symtoken user, what do they know about regenerative farming? You know, why are we throwing it open to them? Well, first of all, if you don't know what you're talking about, perhaps don't get involved in things, you know, in the voting of things that you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Right. But
good luck telling anybody that.
Right. No. Yeah. Sure. But I'm never going to close it off.
Right.
Right. But if you're going to get involved, educate yourself a little bit, maybe. Right. So how can we facilitate that? Well, you know, this is maybe something that we glossed over on the social network side. Is content creators, everybody's familiar with. Some of those content creators have blue check marks, right, on various apps. Okay, we're going to be no different. What gets you a blue check mark on Symto is being qualified in something, right? If you can demonstrate a qualification in a relevant field to that particular drip. With Symto, it is health. Right. Health defined as, like we said, nutrition, self-care, medicine. So if you know about regenerative farming, you're gonna have a blue check mark in that field. Okay. So, you know, on the sort of general network, when people are talking about their health, when posts are tagged, we talk about the tagging system another time if you like. When posts are tagged, if you click on that tag, there'll be a conversation there between the people who have blue check marks on whether or not that tag is valid for that post.
Where did we leave off?
Blue check marks.
Blue check marks. Yeah.
So similarly, for the loan applications, right? I may as well call them that, like the loan campaigns, we'll have blue check marks having their conversation about that, qualified people that know about regenerative farming, talking about regenerative farming, whether this is a viable, whether this is a viable project and genuinely regenerative and all that. And, you know, part of the stipulation of the loan will be that you have to publish content, follow up, show the people that supported you that you're doing what you said you would do. You know, so there's accountability. And I think that's about as. I think that is a regenerative system.
Yeah,
I genuinely do. I think that decentralizes power. and
kind of democratizes the decision making,
Right.
decentralizes the power.
yes,
It
and closes the loop.
closes the loop, and it the costs are no longer the primary product
Right.
of the system. It is no longer an extractive system.
Right.
It's not extracting your attention. We're not investing in extractive agricultural practices, etc. Well, yeah. I mean, is there anything? Is there anything else you want to add about the regenerative economy, the Symtoken life cycle / lifestyle?
Yeah, right. I mean, that about covers it. I mean, there's some technical aspects about, where does when you cash out a Symtoken, where does that go?
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't really affect anything.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think we covered we covered the life cycle of the Symtoken. I mean, we know how how the users are going to interact with Symto, kind of what's in it for them, how the advertising works, how it works with businesses,
Yep.
and just how the Symtoken ecosystem works.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I guess maybe we're gonna wrap up this episode.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, yeah, guys, I guess that's a wrap. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to episode 2. Like I said, if you haven't seen the first episode, go back and check that out on our YouTube channel. Visit Symto.net. That's Symto.net, kind of for the full story. Follow us on Instagram, Symto.insta, also on Facebook. And if you guys can, take a look at our Ko-fi. I will post a link somewhere that's visible. And if you guys can make a contribution to our Ko-fi, every little bit helps to help us build these technologies to make the world a little bit more regenerative, a little bit healthier, a little bit more balanced.
For sure.
And cool. Well, tune in next time, guys.
I'm gonna go get some aloe.
Go get some. I know. Yeah, we're in a little bit sunburned out here. All right, guys. I'm your social media guy, Charlie Scott, CEO, Martin Lees, and be well, everyone.